Hello, it's Euan Studios, and finally it's here, the 500 sub special. And if you haven't already worked it out, we're going to be having a look at my entire collection here. There's 54 unique models here, and we'll be going through them one by one right now. So the original plan here was I was going to put them on a turntable and we're going to see all the 360 view of the engine, but as you can see, the turntable is moving a bit fast for that. And even when I slow it down here, you can see that it's still just a bit choppy. Yeah, so we're just going to do it statically, and yeah, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, technical difficulties aside, our first engine up here is just a stock standard Tommy Thomas. Now this one has been modified, so it can take off his face. It's a bit spooky right there. And just put it on there. You can have a different facial expression. He does also have some striping on top of the cab. I added that myself. Anyway, let's move on to the next engine. The next engine is one that doesn't even properly fit on the track that I've set up. But it's Steam Along Thomas. He's metallic blue. If we just turn to the side there, you can see that he's a bit more metallic-y. He has Annie attached, and Annie is the bit that's powered, because in here is all the electricals for the sound system. But yeah, there's Steam Along Thomas, and we're going to move on to our next one, who is Flip Face Thomas. You can see here he has his red van that's attached to him. He's remote control. I don't have the remote control on me right now, but you can imagine what it looks like. I'll put a picture up on the screen. And you can flip his face so he can be scared, or he can be happy. That's really the gimmick to him. And yeah, he's pretty cool. Let's move on to our next one. Returning to normality here, we have just a standard Thomas, but this one is a Hit Toys Thomas, and this is the one with the painted eyes. This is the one from the Chinese Dragon set. Besides the painted eyes, and this one actually has painted lines here, it's exactly the same to the first one I showed. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. This is the 2009 Mattel redesign with the CGI face. This isn't the one that was first released, this was the second release one where they actually updated the face mode. Yeah, not really much more to say about him. He uses the same type of motor as the other two normal Thomases that I showed. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now this one might look virtually identical to the one that I just showed you, but this is actually the final iteration of Trackmaster 1 Thomas. The switch is a bit more recessed in here, and it has a flat drive motor. And also some of the moulding is a bit different, but we're not going to get too much into it as this is a collection, not a comparison. Let's get on to the next. We're finally done with the Thomases, and we're on to the next character, which is Edward. This is just the standard Tommy Edward, but again, I've painted the stripes on top, and I've also done his handrails as well. But yeah, there you go, you see him now. Let's move on to the next one, and this is the CGI Mattel Edward. Now mine does have a bit of a flaw, he's missing his side rod there. I broke that. I'll probably get that replaced. Yeah, on to the next one. And here we have Henry. This one does have a little bit more modifications to it, like Edward. You can see that I've tried to do these bits right here. I've also done the same as Edward. I've done his lining and his handrails. But yeah, that's really all there is to Henry. Let's move on to our next one. And we're on to the number 4 blue engine, which is Gordon. Yep. Pretty much the same story as Edward and Henry. Yeah, you can see the painted handrails and the lining. Yeah, that's really all there is to say about Gordon. Let's move on to our next one. James, the Tommy one from 1993. Yeah, there's not really much more to say about him. It's just James. I also did the same mods that I did. Handrails and the lining. Yeah, next engine. And it's James again, but this time he has a new coat of paint. Yep, this is the Busy Bee James from 2007. Am I right in saying 2007? Yeah. So here's Busy Bee James, released in the Hit Toys era. Not very much more to say about him. Let's move on to our next one. And it's James again, but this is the CGI Mattel one, which was released in 2013, I think. It was released at the same time as the Edward that I showed. Yeah, not really much more to say about him. Let's move on to our next one. And it's Percy, the Tommy one. Yeah, there's not really much to say about him. He's got the same modifications that I did to the other ones. He's got the lining. Yep, on to our next one. And it's chocolate covered Percy. Yeah, this one was released in Hit Toys, I think. He's got a shocked face on, which is different to the one that was released in the US, which just had the happy Percy face that I showed just 10 seconds ago, but yep, chocolate crunch Percy. Next character, lucky number 7, and it's Toby. Yep, he does have a couple of mods up on his roof. You can see I've just done some of his stuff, like his funnel and the thing that rings his bell. Not much more to say about Toby. Next one, here's a fan favourite, it's Duck. Yeah, I painted his handrail. You can see just there, you can see it's a little bit of shiny. Yep, there's Duck. Let's move on to our next one. Well, that was a close shave. Here's the close shaved Duck, the one released by Mattel. You can tell that because this just uses the regular duck face and not the special one with the molded shaving cream. Yeah, this one is the less cool one, but it's still close shaved Duck regardless. Next one, and it's our first tender engine in a while. This is number 9, Donald, one of the 2 Scottish twins. As you can see right here, I've painted his handrails, but I've not done anything else to him. Let's move on to our next one. You are not seeing double. This is Douglas. He has a different face to Donald, and I've also done his handrails as well. Not much more to say about him. Next, now here's one that people consider rare, but is it really rare? No, I don't think so. It's just overpriced. Here is Tommy Oliver. As you can see, I've committed the heinous crime of vandalizing him by giving him his handrails. Okay, yeah, I can take that off with some rubbing alcohol if I need to. Let's move on to our next one. And we are almost out of the ballpark of numbers. This is number 12, despite it not even saying on the tender. Emily. So yeah. She's the first tender-powered one, which is not ideal, but I'm not here to complain, I'm just here to showcase. Next, and here is my favourite character ever. I'm sorry for repeating that unlucky tug joke. This is Charlie. Yeah, I was gonna save the CGI characters to the end, but he is number 14, which comes after number 12, because we don't have a number 13. Next! Here is Bill, one of the twins who works at the Sodor clay mines. I have done his handrails. Yeah, not much more to say about him. Next, and here is Ben, who is very similar to Bill because they didn't even bother giving him different faces like they did Donald and Douglas. But yeah, I've done the same modifications, which is his handrails. Not much more to say about him. Next, and our first Diesel of the day. This is Devious Diesel himself. The old Tommy one, which is a bit more shiny. I don't know, I might get a Trackmaster one, which has the more rough black, which is a bit more accurate. But yeah, next character, but this is actually the same character. This is Working Hard Diesel. He has a flat drive motor in there instead of the one the Tommy one has. And he has that more rough black, which I was talking about on the other Trackmaster one. Yeah. Next character, for real, and it's Boko, another fan favourite. Yeah, he's here. He's quite a long diesel. I like that about him. You won't get that today in Trackmaster 2. Next, and here is Spencer, the shiny silver one released by Trackmaster. I would prefer this one over the Tommy one because I just like the silver. Yeah, next, and speaking of that grey Tommy Spencer, here he is. Now this one I didn't get him with nameplate, so I've turned him into sort of just a standard Pacific engine. You see I've given him a plain tender, and yeah, he's just not really Spencer yet. Next up is Harvey. This guy gets a lot of hate because he isn't powered. He's powered using this coach in the back, but I quite like Harvey. He's cool. He has unique side rods to him. If we just pick him up here, you can see the unique side rods. Yeah, pretty cool. Let's move on to our next. Here is Salty. Now I've done the same modifications to him. I've just done up his handrails a bit. You can see right there. Not much more to say about Salty. And it's Diesel 10. This one isn't in the greatest shape, so I'll need to get him replaced eventually. But yeah, not much more to say about him. Next. I wonder how many times I've said not much more to say about him in this video. But anyways, here we have Splatter. Unfortunately, I do not have Dodge. So he is alone for now, but I will get Dodge eventually. Let's move on to our next, who is one of 2 magical engines in this video. This is Lady. She's a very nice engine. I really like this one. Let's move on to our next. And it's another diesel. This is Mavis. And I've just done some more modifications to her. She's got silver handrails and the little knobs on the side are also silver. Let's move on to our next. Here's our next one. This is Murdoch. He's very long. He almost doesn't fit on my track here. But yeah, I know he's pretty rare and I'm pretty happy to have him. Let's move on to our next. And it's Molly, who's another tender powered engine. These guys will have reviews in the future, so I will not say too much about them in this collection video. Now let's move on to our next. He's not an engine, but it just did not feel right not showing him here. This is Rocky. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's got a crane arm, which is actually motorized. Yeah, we'll look at that in his review. Let's just move on to our next. We're on to our final model series standard gauge character. This is Stanley. This is the Trackmaster one, released for a great discovery. I prefer this one over the Playrail one. I don't want to get too much into it, let's just save that for the review. Next. And we're on to the CGI characters. And this is Hero. I've done a review of him already, we should already know everything about him. Let's move on to our next. Here is Connor from King of the Railway. He's a big massive streamliner. He doesn't have the right wheels, but the Playrail one does. So yeah, you could argue the Playrail one is more accurate, but I just don't really like how the Playrail ones look. Let's just move on to our next. And it's the other big streamliner from King of the Railway. This is Caitlin. You could argue that the Playrail one's better, but I quite like the Trackmaster one. Next, and it's Steven. Yeah, here he is. He's based on Stevenson's rocket. I think his funnel's a bit too short, but I do really like his side rods. We'll get more into him in the video about him. Next, this is our final standard gauge character, Fiery Flynn. This guy does have some problems, which I will mention in his review. I have also taken the liberty of painting some of his details, but again, we'll talk more about that in his review. Next, thought we were done? No, we still have the narrow gauge characters to go. This is Scar Louie. I've given him some side rods, so he looks a bit better, because the static side rods suck. Let's move on to our next. Here is Rheneas. I tried to give him moving side rods like Scar Louie, but I just can't do it. His wheels are attached to his motor, so it just doesn't work. Let's move on to our next. And it's Sir Handel, the Trackmaster, one of the black wheels, which is more accurate. I like this guy, he's pretty cool. We'll do a review of him in the future. Let's move on to our next. Here is Duke. Kind of inaccurate to the show, very accurate to the roller photos. Let's move on to our next. And moving on to our second magical engine of the day, here is Proteus. He's just a Sir Handel repaint, but with a Proteus nameplate, a lamp, and a new face. Not much more to say about him, we'll talk about him more in a review. And the final engine in this collection is Mighty Mac. Mine is not in great shape. See that a lot of his stickers are peeled. He's missing a wheel in the back, but he can do this, which I think is a pretty cool way of making it so you could have Mighty or Mac in the front. And you can see another peeled sticker there. Yep, that's us finally done with the engine, but we're still not done with the collection. Here is Bertie. Yeah, not really much to say about him, it's just Bertie the bus. Let's move on to our next. And it's Jack. I got this guy fairly recently. His arm moves up and down. bit of a clicky joint. Yeah, let's move on to our next. And our final character, for real this time, is Jeremy. I didn't know where else to put him. Was he a train or a road vehicle? He's more of a road vehicle, so I just stuck him in the road vehicle thing. And I put him at the end. That's the end of the collection. I didn't really feel like setting all the engines back up for the ending, so I'll just show you how I store my engines. I store them all in this box right here. Well, not all of them, most of them. Yeah. I'd like to thank you all for 500 subscribers. At 1,000, I show my face. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Thank you all. Expect more reviews on the way and other types of videos. Yep, this one was very tiring to do. Bye bye.